he has affection. So when he feels, but the Lord sees that Srivas Thakur is affected by that, he's suffered a loss like that, he becomes sad. Like he feels for Srivas Thakur. But Srivas Thakur, he only feels for the Lord. So this is the reciprocation that relationship is there. So Srivas Thakur, he lost his child, he lost his son, but he didn't want to disturb the Lord. So that is the example set by Srivas Thakur. And so we may say here, the example set here by Kritajyuti is actually the opposite. And so we may see the practical instruction. So what's the practical instruction for us? Okay, Srivas Thakur, he also has attachment, but what's the nature of his attachment? Like the attachment of Queen Kritajyuti and Maharaj Chitraketu is unfavorable because by the loss, they are starting to become atheists. They are blaspheming the Lord. They are not increasing their Krishna consciousness. They are becoming more in the direction of, you can say, atheistic and wanting to criticize the Lord. While Srivas Thakur, he just, in any case, whatever happens, he just sees for the satisfaction of the Lord. In any personal loss, any personal gain or any personal loss, he only sees what's the impact for the Lord. What does it mean for the Lord's satisfaction? If my loss increases the Lord's satisfaction, and let me take that loss. And if my gain increases the Lord's satisfaction, let me take that gain. So everything is seen in relation to the Lord's pleasure and displeasure. So that's the devotee. That's how he sees. While the atheist or materialist sees, then my loss is my loss. You know, my gain is my gain. It doesn't connect it with the Lord. So that's the difference. So they take it here as the loss of their child. That's their loss. And it doesn't have any connection with the Lord. Rather they just criticize, well, why are you not supplying me my right to have my child, to enjoy my child? You know, I have plans here. We have a kingdom, and that has to be passed on to a son, so the kingdom can continue. So why are you disturbing this? You know, so that is the materialistic concept. So we try to follow Srivas Thakur. And Srivas Thakur, as we know, he's a part of the Panchatattva, and he's actually you can say Acharya of our tract. We take his in actions as pathway, showing the pathway for how we should act. So, as devotees, we try always to see how our actions are giving pleasure or displeasure to the Lord. And an expert devotee, he knows exactly the way he behaves right now, if that is pleasing the Lord or if it's displeasing the Lord. And he follows the instruction of Rupa Goswami. One should accept that which is favorable for the service of the Lord and reject that which is unfavorable for the service of the Lord. So Srivas Thakur, he was analyzing like that. He was analyzing all the time. This crying here, this lamentation, is this favorable for the service of the Lord? And he was calculating, no, this is not favorable. If we start to lament, if we start this big sorrow just right now in the middle of the Lord's kirtan, that will not be favorable for the Lord's service, and the Lord will not be pleased. So therefore, he chose not to disturb the kirtan with this news. So in the same way, everything we do, we base on this principle, that to accept the favorable for Krishna service and reject the unfavorable. And the difference between an experienced devotee and a less experienced devotee is that the experienced devotee, he knows exactly, calculate in a millisecond, if this will be pleasing to the Lord, or if this will be displeasing, and he selects accordingly. He always selects the path which is pleasing to the Lord. And that's an expert devotee. While an inexperienced devotee, he will not know how to apply it expertly. He sometimes may even forget the basic philosophy and just commit blunders out of ignorance. But the basic thing is that if we have this idea that that's actually how we execute a devotional service, to accept the favorable and reject the unfavorable Krishna service, we simply try to do it better and better. We simply to become more and more expert, and we do it more and more, you can say, properly and diligently. And then we can experience less and less that we suffer out of our inexperience, that we commit blunders like that, and we take a, you see, So like that, we should have affection. The conclusion is, if we take this last argument of Queen Krita-Juti, that we should have affection for our children. But we should always remember that our prime duty is to satisfy the Lord. And if our attachment to our children is such that this becomes unfavorable for the Lord's service, then it's improper. That's the conclusion. Our attachment to anything in this material world should be in such a way that it is favorable for our execution of devotional service. So we may be attached even to things, even to devotees, if that attachment is favorable for our execution of devotional service. And we may say that our attachment to each other, it is favorable in the sense that we need to be attached and affectionate to each other so that we can execute, as the point I tried to make earlier in the class, that we should chant and be happy. So we need to be attached to each other if we want to follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions that chant and be happy. We need to show affection. Otherwise, if there's no affection in the community of devotees, there's no happiness. And if there's no chanting and there's no happiness, then this movement will not move. It will not be the Sankirtan movement that Mahaprabhu describes, Anandam Buddhivardhanam. It will not expand. So we get attached to that, and in such a way that it is favorable for the Lord's service, and then it is proper. And any attachment which is not favorable for the Lord's service, that is driven out of own personal selfish motives, that we have to give up. So the practical thing is also again to analyze, to see what's the nature of our attachment. Okay, we may be attached, but what's actually the nature of it? Is it selfishly driven, or is it driven to serve the Lord? Is our attachment favorable for the Lord's service? And like that, we always keep on taking account of our own motivation and try to situate ourselves properly, so that we'll be actually adding to the Lord's movement. We'll be supporting and helping the Lord's movement. So with that, I'd like to end my presentation today, and some comments or questions. Yes?
But I was just thinking about Abhimanyu when he died. Then Arjuna, he became so despondent and angry and sorrowful, but he used that anger next day to increase his service.
Yeah, that's also an instance where a devotee loses son, yes.
Yeah, he didn't start blaming Krishna
Yeah.
like that.
So that's
and then
actually,
I was thinking another, we had two instances here recently on Harinam where one Harinam, the students, is 4 or 5 students who came, their first Harinam, they were saying to me, oh, people, they are so adverse to us on the street. They felt like a little, they were a little hurt that people were adverse. They just observed, or their experience was that the first Harinam they were participating in, that we were ignored or people were not favorable to others. And then the next Harinam was this Vandøse Byfest, where they felt that people were so favorable. So what I thought was that this prasadam distribution and this exchange we have with people, that was such a plus, such a help to get that loving exchange between the devotees and between the people. So that these students said they experienced such a difference when there was also the prasadam distribution in the Harinam.
Prabhupada stressed it very much, the prasadam. So as far as possible, we should always distribute prasadam. We should always have prasadam and distribute as far as possible. So I may say, and we always need to improve, especially also kirtan. It's actually not just me and Krishna, me and the holy name. It's actually cooperation, and there's one thing that we may also try to analyze. Well, how can we see actually how we all cooperate to make the kirtan better? And as you know, there's a great science in this, and it's never ending. You know, we can always improve. You know, on the way we execute Harinam Sankirtan together, how we are conscious of each other like that, and there's the element of instruments, how the instruments they should be supporting each other. It should not be that somebody's just playing in their own world and completely neglecting the others and playing kartals so loud that everything else is like tuned out. You just hear the loud kartals and you get ringing in your ear, or so kirtan is a very personal thing actually. And if they see if we can really do it to take support from each other and help each other, to do it as a yagya, then there has to come happiness out of that, because it's just it just comes as a natural law. Like if the devotees are, you can say, into it and they're like supporting each other like that, then it comes just automatically. The ananda, the bliss, it just naturally manifests, because the Lord is pleased when He sees that they're actually trying to do something for me here. They're not trying to do individually, but they're trying to cooperate. And that's why the Lord says, Sankirtan, Sri Krishna Sankirtan, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. So it's the Yuga Dharma. So it's better executed if the devotees execute it with an understanding that we all rely on each other. Like it's not a one-man show. This is Sankirtan, it is congregational chanting. And if it is done in a way, the understanding we are dependent on each other here, to do it like with that understanding, that interdependent understanding, and we do it as a team work or team spirit, then you say, then the Lord is very pleased. And then He very willingly supplies the ananda. But if we take it as one-man show, that we just, our own thing, that we're just chanting and not really paying attention to anybody else around us, then if everybody's doing a one-man show, then Krishna sees it's a one-man show. There's 10 one-man shows going on here, and He's not pleased. He's pleased by Sankirtan, not by the 10 one-man shows. So that's a challenge for us. Now we have to understand actually how we are dependent on the other devotees to make a complete yagya that will satisfy the Lord. So that's actually the difficulty, because if you get it, if you understand it, then you will have a direct access to the bliss, the real, anandam buddhi vardhanam. That ananda will come, and you will have cracked the secret of how to access that ananda if you understand this point. So like that, we should try always to improve this, always to see where are the other devotees, how they're dependent, and how we can inspire and enthuse other devotees to do it as a teamwork. Teamwork, in order for that teamwork, that will satisfy the Lord more than if we simply do it with conscience on ourselves. If we just do our part nicely, but if we don't carry the team concept, then that is still yet to be improved. We have to try to work for that we cooperate, and we lovingly cooperate, so that we'll all take benefit. We'll all take the benefit of that bliss of the Sankirtan Yagya. So we'll take that. We'll try to take that as inspiration to improve that Sankirtan. Yes, maybe.
You talked a lot about like relationships and how we should deal amongst one another, and I just had a specific question. So one is like in a friendship rasa with another devotee, but it's like inferior to superior, and one kind of neglects that and just like throws stuff out like it was on an equal level. Is that considered offensive?
Yes, that's that may be. It may be. There's Arjuna. Once you become aware, and the only thing I can think of in this instance is that Arjuna, when he becomes aware of the Lord's position of Krishna, position as the Almighty Personality of Godhead, then he starts to excuse himself, because then there becomes a big gap. He becomes aware there's a big gap here. There's the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I have just treated him, I've neglected him, or I've, like, you can say, acted like very haughtily in presence of Krishna. So he understands that, oh, this is wrong now, because now it perceives as a big gap, but he didn't see that before. Or like Krishna was always the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that Arjuna, he didn't deal with him in that way, in the relationship, like previous to having achieved that darshan. So Arjuna, excuses himself at that point to say so. So yes, theoretically there is when there's somebody superior and you treat him as a friend, that may be improper. But the exchange at that point, where Krishna did it, at that point when it happened, like Arjuna wasn't seeing Vishwarup, the all-pervading universal form. So at that point there was a natural flow. There was a flow of that. It was okay on that level. But as soon as that awareness becomes, then he understands it was improper. Now he couldn't have done it. Now when he sees Krishna, he would never do it, because now the distance is, he knows, he's aware. So what we may mistake is that sometimes we would just be, even though there is a superior, out of our own, you may say, ignorance, you may say, we would just neglect that because we have some ambition. We want to be great. So the tendency is when we want to be great, then we tend to minimize everybody else. So we tend to think somebody may be equal to me. A lot of people, they may be inferior, but nobody's greater than me. So we try to pull everybody down so they're not very much greater than us, because we have the ambition to be great ourselves. And that's when we get a bit of a problem. That's when we neglect to recognize somebody's superiority like that, out of our own ambition to be greater than everybody else. Therefore, we carry this into devotional service, and we get problems sometimes. And if we don't feel happy one day, if we can experience someday we just feel miserable, or we can see that some devotee that isn't a superior, they feel displeased, it may be because we actually did like that. It may be caused by our, you can say, improper behavior. And then we need to analyze and see, am I actually doing this? And if we are, to try to adjust it, that we control ourselves from doing that. Because we may, like in Denmark, everybody's equal. We actually have this tendency not to be very much respectful to authority. I think it's a national conditioning, like in the West in general. Like we kicked out the monarchy, and then we kicked down the politicians, like that. So it's actually quite a substantial thing. But for our practical purposes, we can always analyze if we have dealing with superior devotees and somehow they're not pleased, they're not happy, or we feel miserable. Then there must be some mistake that we're making. And it may be here that we're making mistakes. So we must analyze by ourselves. We must ourselves figure out exactly if we're making mistakes in this area and try to correct it as far as possible. So you have to find out yourself like that, or ask even. You may even ask the superior if they feel that we're dealing improperly. You may also just ask if you're not sure. Yes. I think that I would say. Yes, so we can stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Harinam Sankirtan Yajna ki jai.